Deep within a remote and untamed jungle, far from the reaches of civilization, there lay a secret that had haunted the land for centuries, a secret born from the legend of Bloody Mary. The jungle was an ancient place, lush and teeming with life, but it held a darkness that few dared to explore. It was said that long ago, a group of explorers had ventured into this wilderness in search of hidden treasures and the secrets of the unknown. Among them was a woman named Mary, whose fascination with the supernatural was well known. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, guided by old maps and cryptic tales, they stumbled upon a hidden grove. In its center, surrounded by towering trees, there stood a large, ornate mirror, its surface etched with intricate symbols. It was a relic older than time itself, said to be a portal to another world. With a reckless sense of curiosity, Mary and her companions began to chant the name Bloody Mary before the mirror. The air grew heavy with anticipation, and the jungle itself seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly, the mirror began to shimmer, its surface rippling like a dark pool of water. From the mirror's depths, a twisted figure emerged. It was Bloody Mary herself, her spectral form oozing malevolence. Her eyes, dark as obsidian, fixated on Mary, and her lips parted to reveal a haunting, blood-stained smile. Chaos erupted in the grove as Mary's companions tried to flee, but they were ensnared by the jungle's relentless grip. Vines coiled around their limbs, and the earth seemed to come alive, trapping them within its clutches. They watched in terror as Bloody Mary's ghostly hands reached out, pulling Mary into the mirror's abyss. The mirror shattered with a deafening roar, releasing an otherworldly scream that echoed through the jungle. Mary's companions were left behind, traumatized and forever scarred by the nightmarish encounter. In the years that followed, the jungle became a place of fear and dread. Locals warned against venturing near the grove, and tales of the cursed mirror and the vengeful spirit of Bloody Mary were passed down through generations. Occasionally, brave souls would attempt to find the grove, drawn by the allure of the supernatural. They would chant Bloody Mary's name before the remnants of the shattered mirror, seeking answers or power. But each time, the jungle would exact its price, ensnaring them in its web of horrors. To this day, the jungle remains a place of darkness and mystery, a realm where the legend of Bloody Mary lives on, forever intertwined with the untamed wilderness. Those who dare to seek her out are met with a fate worse than death, as the jungle guards its dark secret with a vengeance, ensuring that Bloody Mary's legacy endures in the hearts of all who dare to explore its depths. In the heart of a small, forgotten town, there stood a decaying mansion known as the Waverly House. It had been abandoned for decades, its history marred by dark secrets and whispered tales of the supernatural. Among the most notorious of these legends was the haunting presence of Bloody Mary. The story begins with a family who had once inhabited Waverly House. The Marshalls were a wealthy and reclusive clan, known for their obsession with the occult. It was said that Patriarch Samuel Marshall was particularly fascinated by the legend of Bloody Mary and had performed countless rituals to summon her. One moonless night, Samuel gathered his family in the grand ballroom of Waverly House. With a mirror as old as the mansion itself, they chanted Bloody Mary 13 times, believing it would unlock untold powers. As the last utterance of her name echoed through the dark room, an eerie stillness fell upon Waverly House. The family watched in horror as the temperature plummeted and the mirror fogged with an otherworldly chill. The ghostly figure of Bloody Mary emerged from the glass, her eyes filled with malice and her blood-soaked gown tattered. A wave of terror washed over the Marshalls as they realized the horrifying truth. They had successfully summoned Bloody Mary, but it was not the benevolent spirit they had hoped for. She was a vengeful and malevolent force, her ghastly presence consuming the family with relentless fury. The mansion became a nightmare. The marshals were plagued by haunting visions, relentless whispers, and cold, clammy touches that followed them wherever they went. The once grand rooms of Waverly House turned into chambers of despair. As the years passed, the marshals' sanity crumbled. They became shadows of their former selves, imprisoned within the cursed mansion. It was said that they eventually vanished, leaving behind only the chilling echoes of their tormented souls. Waverly House became a place of dread, shunned by the townsfolk. The legend of the Bloody Mary haunting spread like wildfire, deterring anyone from entering the forsaken mansion. Decades later, a group of thrill-seekers dared to step inside Waverly House, armed with cameras and recording equipment. They intended to capture evidence of the supernatural. As they ventured into the dilapidated ballroom, they found the same old mirror that had once summoned Bloody Mary. With trembling hands, they chanted her name 13 times, unaware of the malevolent force they were invoking. The room grew cold, and the mirror fogged with an unsettling presence. An eerie whisper filled the air, growing louder and more sinister with each repetition. Suddenly, the mirror shattered, unleashing a chilling scream that echoed through the house. The thrill-seekers fled in terror, leaving the mansion behind, but they carried with them the knowledge that the legend of Bloody Mary and the haunted Waverly House was very much real. To this day, Waverly House stands as a grim testament to the dark forces that can be summoned by those who dare to invoke Bloody Mary's name. It is a place where the echoes of the past reverberate with haunting intensity, a place where the line between reality and the supernatural blurs, and where the tormented spirits of the marshals and Bloody Mary herself continue to seek retribution. It was a dark and stormy night, and a sense of unease hung heavy in the air. In a sleepy suburban town, a group of teenagers huddled in a dimly lit basement, their faces illuminated by the flickering candlelight. Among them was a boy named Jake, known for his bravado and fearlessness. He had dared his friends to summon Bloody Mary, a legend that had terrified them since childhood. The group had gathered because of a dare that had grown into a challenge none of them wanted to back down from. They stood before a full-length mirror, one that had been passed down through generations in Jake's family. The mirror was old and ornate, with an eerie sense of history about it. Whispers of fear rippled through the group as they prepared to perform the ritual. In trembling voices, they chanted, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," 3 times as the legend demanded. With each repetition of the name, the room grew colder and the candle flames danced wildly. It was as if the very air around them had turned icy and malevolent. The group's fear was palpable, but their curiosity pushed them to continue. Suddenly, as the final chant left their lips, the room fell into an eerie silence. The candle flames extinguished themselves, plunging the room into pitch darkness. Panic set in as they fumbled for their phones, desperate for any source of light. A blood-curdling scream pierced the air, causing the group to freeze. It was Jake. His voice was filled with terror and agony. When the friends finally managed to light their phones, they saw Jake's reflection in the mirror, contorted in a grotesque manner. His eyes were bloodshot, and his mouth was wide open in a soundless scream. They tried to pull him away from the mirror, but it was as if an invisible force held him in place. His body began to convulse, and dark, shadowy hands seemed to emerge from the mirror, wrapping themselves around his throat. In their desperate struggle to free Jake, one of the friends accidentally shattered the ancient mirror with a loud crash. The moment the mirror broke, Jake collapsed to the ground, lifeless. The room returned to an eerie calm, and the temperature began to rise again. The others stared at their friend's lifeless body in shock and disbelief. The legend of Bloody Mary had taken a horrifying turn, claiming the life of a teenage boy who had dared to summon her. The guilt and terror of that night haunted Jake's friends for the rest of their lives. a grim reminder of the deadly consequences of playing with forces beyond their understanding. From that night on, the legend of Bloody Mary in their town took on a darker and more chilling dimension, as the story of Jake's tragic demise became a cautionary tale whispered in fearful tones by those who had witnessed the unthinkable. In a small, sleepy town nestled deep in the countryside, there was a legend that had been whispered among generations of children, the legend of Bloody Mary. The story had its roots in an actual event that took place many years ago, leaving a chilling mark on the town's history. In the late 1800s, the town was flourishing with life. The townsfolk were a superstitious bunch, always looking for something to spark their curiosity. Mary was a young woman who lived in the town, known for her striking beauty and mysterious demeanor. She lived a reclusive life, shunning company and spending hours alone in her room. One fateful summer night, a group of mischievous children gathered at Mary's home, fueled by rumors and bravado. They had heard tales of her unusual habits and eccentricities, and their curiosity had finally gotten the better of them. Armed with candles and daring spirits, they tiptoed up to Mary's window and peered inside. To their astonishment, they saw Mary standing before a grand mirror in her room. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her hair was wild and unkempt. In her trembling hand, she held a sharp, gleaming knife. The children watched in horror as Mary whispered a name they couldn't quite make out, repeating it again and again. Summoned by the whispers, Mary's reflection began to distort, contorting into grotesque shapes. Her face twisted into a sinister grin as she lunged at the mirror, causing it to shatter into 1,000 pieces. The room plunged into darkness, and the children fled in terror. The following morning, the townsfolk gathered outside Mary's home, curious about the commotion. When they entered her room, they found the shattered mirror, a pool of blood on the floor, but no sign of Mary. She had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the chilling memory of that night. Years passed, and the legend of Bloody Mary was born. It was said that Mary's tormented spirit still lingered, trapped within the shards of that shattered mirror. Brave souls who dared to summon her by chanting her name in front of a mirror at midnight would risk facing her vengeful wrath. And so, the legend persisted, and every now and then, a brave or foolish soul would attempt to summon Bloody Mary. Some claimed to have seen her ghostly image in the mirror, her bloodshot eyes filled with anger and sorrow. Others spoke of eerie whispers and phantom hands reaching out from the darkness. To this day, the legend of Bloody Mary continues to haunt the town, a chilling reminder of that fateful night when Mary's reflection twisted into something otherworldly. Whether it was a tale spun from truth or the product of overactive imaginations, one thing was certain: the legend of Bloody Mary would never die, and the mirror in Mary's room would forever remain shattered, holding the secrets of that terrifying night. Nestled in the heart of a quiet rural town was a road with a sinister reputation. Locals knew it as Bloodsworth Road, a name that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. The road was said to be haunted by the vengeful spirit of Bloody Mary, and for good reason. Legend had it that many years ago, a group of daring teenagers had gathered on Bloodsworth Road to perform the infamous Bloody Mary ritual. They parked their cars at the roadside and ventured into the dense woods that flanked the road. Among the group was a young woman named Sarah, known for her curiosity and fearlessness. As the clock neared midnight, they set up an old, cracked mirror beneath a gnarled oak tree, far from the road's feeble streetlights. In hushed tones, they chanted the name Bloody Mary 3 times, hoping to summon the notorious spirit. Almost instantly, a heavy fog descended upon the forest, obscuring their vision. The temperature plummeted, and a feeling of dread washed over the group. Panic set in as they realized they might have unleashed something beyond their control. Out of the mist, a spectral figure materialized before them. It was a woman with long, matted hair and a tattered white gown, her eyes hollow and filled with anger. It was Bloody Mary herself. Terrified, the teenagers fled, racing back to their cars and speeding away from the cursed road. But Sarah, in her haste, tripped and fell, her hand accidentally brushing against the mirror as she scrambled to her feet. In an instant, the mirror cracked, and the fog dissipated, leaving behind an eerie silence. Sarah returned home that night, shaken but alive, or so she thought. Over the next few weeks, strange things began to happen. She would wake up to find her reflection in the bathroom mirror distorted and contorted, her own reflection mocking her with an eerie grin. She heard whispers in the darkness, faintly calling her name. The hauntings grew more intense as days turned into weeks. Sarah's sleep was plagued by nightmares, and she became gaunt and haggard, her once vibrant spirit drained by the relentless torment of Bloody Mary. Desperate to end the nightmare, Sarah returned to Bloodsworth Road, clutching a shard of the cracked mirror. In the dead of night, she whispered Bloody Mary's name, pleading for release. The spectral figure appeared again, this time closer and more malevolent. It reached out and touched Sarah, sending a shock of icy cold through her. In an instant, Sarah's reflection in the shard of the mirror shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, and she disappeared into the mist, her fate sealed by Bloody Mary's vengeance. To this day, Bloodsworth Road remains a place of dread and despair, haunted by the tormented spirit of Sarah and the vengeful spirit of Bloody Mary. The legend serves as a chilling warning to those who dare to seek out the supernatural, for on Bloodsworth Road, the line between reality and nightmare is blurred, and the consequences of summoning the dead can be truly horrifying.